welcome to Tar Heel Teachers at Home. I'm Marlo Artis. I'm the moderator of the program. Tar Heel Teachers at Home is an interview series focused on engaging North Carolinians in conversations around education. Each week, I'm happily joined by a wonderful panel of educators, each one representing a particular subsection of education. We'll start our introductions with our elementary school co-host.
Hi, I'm Amy Tart. I teach 5th grade ELA and Social Studies in Clinton City Schools, and you can find me on Twitter at Cards for Scholars.
Hey, I'm Mike Meehan, and I am a 8th grade social studies teacher at Westlake Middle School in Wake County, and you can find me on Twitter at Mr. Meehan History.
I'm Kimberly Jones. I'm a high school English teacher in Chapel Hill Carver City Schools, and you can find me on Twitter at @GeekKimJones.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arisha Smalls. I am the AIG Program Coordinator for Cumberland County Schools, and you can follow me on Twitter at SmallsArisha.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much for being our special guest middle school co-host. We're really excited to have you. Kim, thank you so much for being our special guest high school co-host, and congratulations to you on being named the Chapel Hill Carver City Schools Teacher of the Year. For this episode of Tar Heel Teachers at Home, we are chatting with Dr. Jerry Oates, Superintendent of Brunswick County Schools. Recently, Dr. Oates was recognized as the Southeast Education Alliance Regional Superintendent of the Year. Dr. Oates, welcome back to Tar Heel Teachers at Home.
Thank you, sir. Good to be with you again.
We're really excited to have you on the program, Dr. Oates, and really I'm so happy that you have been recognized by your peers for this outstanding recognition as Regional Superintendent of the Year. So, Dr. Oates, we want to start by with you sharing, how would you describe Brunswick County Schools to individuals who haven't had an opportunity to visit your school system?
I'd say that Brunswick County is probably a hidden gem. Insofar that it is nestled between the larger district of New Hanover and the larger district of Horry County, South Carolina. So we're kind of in that middle part that people usually go through to get to Myrtle Beach. But it's a hidden gem. There's a lot of great areas in our county at large, but just in our school district as well, there's some great things that have been going on. Not just in my tenure, but prior to that, and we look forward to keeping that momentum going as we go forward, particularly post-pandemic.
Mm-hmm. That's great, and you have been the superintendent of Brunswick County Schools since 2018, but we want to go back 25 years. Tell us about your time as a classroom teacher. What do you remember most about that particular chapter in your career?
Preparation. My hats are off to every teacher that I encounter because I know what it takes to prepare a lesson, to prepare an effective lesson that will reach students and challenge them in whatever the subject matter is. I can remember a long time ago looking over my history lessons and trying to pull in resources to keep them engaged. A lot of high schoolers are not particularly interested in where they weren't at that particular time in history. So you really have to do things to relate the past to the present, and making sure that they can understand the content of that particular class. So preparation was key. Lesson planning was key. Collaborating with veterans was key. So that's what I remember as a classroom teacher.
And I think it's great that the first assignment that you had as a classroom teacher was back at James Keenan High School, your alma mater, and able to spend a year at that particular school, and then deciding that you wanted to branch out. So after you were in the classroom, how did you make that decision to become administrator? Give us an overview of your career from that classroom teacher experience through administration.
Well, it wasn't a choice for me at that particular time. I did teach at James Keenan for a year. I returned back to Wilmington and got a job at John T. Hoggett High School, where I taught history there for 3 years. And during that particular time in 97, 98, 99, of that time frame, one could simply enroll in a master's program and then go into an administrative administrative position if one was open. So I can remember clearly that summer after completing my 4th year of teaching, I got a call to go to the central office. You know, I'm at home in shorts, flip-flops, enjoying the summer, and then you get a call from the central office, and they want you to report. First thing you think, what have I done? You know, so when I get there, I walk into a room, and there's a superintendent and deputy superintendent and principals, and superintendent looks me in the face and says, "Listen, I've heard about you, but I've got 2 schools that are open and needs assistant principals. One's at Laney High School, one's at New Hanover High School. I need for you to tell me which one you want to go to." You know, I wasn't expecting that. So I was kind of dumbfounded at the moment. So my reply to the superintendent at that time was, "I work for the county. You tell me where you want to go, where you want me to go." So I ended up at New Hanover High School. So like I said, it wasn't a choice. It was just presented to me. An opportunity was presented, and I took it.
Wow, and you have really spent the last 25 years having a career of excellence, really being a servant leader, and we're really appreciative that you're on our program for this special episode. What questions do we have for Dr. Oates?
I'd like to jump in since we were taking a trip down memory lane. And a couple of years ago, you had a personnel issue. You had to fire someone. Ben, I'm not sure it was last name.
I say,
What was his last name?
Doing.
Ben Doing. So how has that personnel change affected your district?
Well, I think it worked very well. That's going back pre-pandemic now. So one of the things that the I Fired Been Doing movement kind of did for Brunswick County, it caught on like wildfire. And you know, I would go into different schools and teachers would say, "This is what I used to do, but I fired the been doing aspect of this lesson," or something to that effect. And I think it provided an entryway for a lot of new innovation, regardless of the department, whether it was in the classroom, whether it was in the front office, whether it was in operations. The entire district benefited from that particular movement. One of the things that I would do in working with our public information officer was have folks that would send in information of how they actually were firing than doing. And I would go out and, you know, talk with them and have it videoed and present them with one of the t-shirts. I had t-shirts made with the hashtag across it. And folks really bought into that. And we did that for many of our employees in the school district. And I think even now, some of those ideas of getting rid of the things that we could do better, but we've always done them just because we've always done them, has worked to our advantage.
Well, I really thought that was an innovative idea, and it's really empowered me to think about who I want to fire. And so I think that maybe this school year I'll fire "I'm a try," because I get that a lot from some of our teachers, that I'm going to try. But the act of doing it and just getting it done sometimes doesn't happen. So maybe we need to fire Ima.
Yeah, I like that.
Sir, it's nice to talk to a fellow history teacher. So let me just put that out there first. Yeah. So I feel like now more than ever, there needs to be strong teachers coming into the profession. I feel like there have been so many challenges that have caused teachers to leave the profession. What would your advice be for current college students who are looking to become teachers?
I would say to current college students who are going into the profession that the things that they will, the people that they will impact today, or the impact that they may make on folks today, won't be seen for years. So you have to look down the road at look at the tree that you're planting today. That tree, you may not see it sprout, but it's going to provide shade for somebody down the line. And you may not benefit from it, but you are the ones that help plant that tree. As you said, there's so many things that can discourage college students that are going into the profession. people always talk about the pay, going into education. You talk about the long hours, the hard work that's put into it. And those things they stand true. But I still believe firmly that the benefits of education outweigh those disadvantages and those discouragements that people throw at us all the time. We have to become our own cheerleaders. I was just with a group of regional superintendents today at UNCW, and one of the things that we were talking about, basically the same question with folks in college and how to recruit more teachers. One of the things that we've never seen is anyone at the state level do a marketing campaign for public education. There's not been one commercial, there's not been anything that has been put out to the public to enhance or to attract folks into the profession. So because of that void, we have to then fill in the gap ourselves and be our own cheerleaders and marketers of this profession. So to college students, I would tell them all the time, take pride in the profession that you're going into and be the biggest cheerleader for it that you can.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned the word preparation. What would be another word that you would want these future teachers to have in their head? If there's one word to have in their head, what would be that word?
I would say longevity. Right now, it is so easy for folks to go into the profession and after a year or two become so discouraged and just say, I'm going to go jump ship and do something else. And there are many other careers that they could go into. As a matter of fact, a lot of industries are waiting for former teachers because we are some of the most organized, intelligent, hardworking, and just the greatest employee that you want to find. And these industries are waiting to just pull us out of the profession. But if we could just stick to it and have that longevity, we'll reap the benefits of the profession and what it has to offer.
Dr. Oates, I have a kind of follow-up question to what Mike was just talking about. I grew up in a more rural school district with outstanding teachers, but after I graduated and I was looking for where I wanted to build my career, home did not make the cut. And I had outstanding teachers, and my mom and my church family and everybody wanted to get me back home. So what are you doing at your local level to bring in some of these new teachers that have that passion, who want to invest with longevity into a community? How are you maybe working with your local partners, or what are you doing to convince young educators to come to your part of the state? It's a hidden gem, but when you're in your 20s, you want to go where you see the bling. So how are you pulling in educators into your community?
It's interesting that you would ask that, because these are the conversations that I had earlier today. I'm a member of the Brunswick Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and one of the things that I'm definitely planning to do at the next meeting is to look for ways in which we can give some major discounts for folks who are living in our county. Apartments are springing up everywhere, particularly in the northern part of the county. And if we can waive that deposit or waive that first month's rent, if we can partner with our public utilities and be able to give discounts for educators, do things that aren't happening now, things that will attract them. One of the things I say about it being a hidden gem, it's a great place to move to, because you're just a step away from the Wilmington downtown nightlife, if you will, and then you have Myrtle Beach right down the road if you want to do that, or we have our own beaches, whatever type of recreational thing you want to do. But you want to be able to survive You have to be able to live. So if we can do those things for beginning teachers and just teachers in general, we will be able to then recruit and retain those folks instead of saying, well, I'm going to leave here and I'm going to Wake County. I'm going to Guilford County. But we can do the same things here. May not have all of the trappings of the big city life, but we can definitely affect the bottom line. And so we're looking to do those types of things. But I think the biggest piece in my conversations with teachers and much of the research that I've poured through when it comes to retention and recruiting is the environment in which folks work. So if you can provide a place that is safe and nurturing and fun, they'll stay. People don't leave because of, well, some, but most folks don't leave necessarily because of money. They leave because of the way that they are treated in that particular department, that building, whatever their organization is. So if we can do all we can to provide that environment where they don't want to leave, that's half the battle as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was going to be my question. There are so many great teachers that either are leaving or they're not coming, and a large factor could be the climate or culture within a school building. So what do you encourage, your principals, your other educational leaders, that they do to help build up that positive culture and climate in their building for their teachers?
You could come to Brunswick County and ask any one of my 20 principals and probably a good number of the teachers that I have spoken with at large or just individually, what is the number one thing that Oates will say is going to make people stay in Brunswick County? And they will tell you that I will always say, you treat people like people. You don't treat them as pawns. You don't treat them as stepping stones. When you see them, you speak, you have a genuine conversation with them. I try to make it and lead by example with my cabinet members, that first thing in the morning when I get to work is not necessarily sitting down and getting to work. It's going around the office and talking to the folks that are there, not about work, but just about how they are. What is it I can do to help? I like to know about your families. I like to know about your kids. Where are you going on vacation? What are you doing? Have you taken this time for yourself? When people really connect with you and you build relationships, treating them like people as opposed to just an employee that can be replaced on a whim, they will do anything in the world they can for you. And it's the same in a classroom. You build a relationship with a student where they feel that they're not just working so they can get a level 4 or 5 on an EOC or an EOG, but they are working to make you look good as a teacher. They will run down a brick wall for you. So it's, again, treating people like people.
Need to put that on a t-shirt as well, because that's excellent advice. The other question I had kind of pertained to how your education career went, where you were kind of scooped up to go in administration. I'm seeing that a lot nowadays too, but also there's some teachers that they're great teachers and they need to stay in the classroom, but they see admin as kind of a stepping stone for better pay, to get more leadership experience. How do you think we can keep those great teachers that are staying in their profession, staying in the district? How do we keep them in that classroom role where they're directly impacting students?
Well, again, one of the ways that we can do that is by valuing teachers and giving them more pay. That's the first thing, because you're right. A lot of teachers will leave the classroom because they see it as an increase in the paycheck, but at the same time, there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with being an administrator. You're a target. You're a big target, and when you leave that classroom, you are a content specialist, particularly in high school. In elementary, you were just you know everything in elementary school. You have to, but when you leave that classroom and go into administration, you have to become an expert on policy and procedure and law and all of that other stuff that takes that on. And by no means would I discourage any teacher who thinks they want to go into that. But in order to keep those teachers who really need to be in front of students, we need to value them more by, again, dealing with the bottom line, creating an environment for them to thrive, provide support, and give those teachers who wish to be administrators, give them more responsibility in the building as far as teacher leaders. Have them grow teachers, becoming the mentor for many DTs, or just a mentor for all teachers, and being a model classroom that people can go to and see how to do things right. Giving them those responsibilities would probably scratch that administrative itch a little bit that they have.
And one way, Dr. Oates, that you all show your appreciation for teachers is through your Teacher Advisory Council, which is a model for the state. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, each year our Teacher Advisory Council changes because it's comprised of the teachers of the year in our schools. So what happens with that group is they have opportunity with once a month to convene, and we are having open, honest dialogue. They get to talk with me and my cabinet. We have board members who will sit in on the TAC and just listen. They won't speak. They just simply listen, because I want them to hear what the teachers have to say. So when it came time to look at budgetary items as we were going on, and then teachers were asking for supplement increases, they were looking for this or looking for that. It sounds much better if it comes from TAC rather than coming from me, because I want them to hear from the voices of the folks that their decisions are going to affect directly. So that group has been very powerful in our county in getting things done. They present the TAC president, which is the overall teacher of the year, presents at every board meeting. It's basically a good conduit for where teachers in the building have questions that they may not feel comfortable enough to ask their principal, so they bring it to their teacher of the year, their TAC representative, and those questions are then brought to us as cabinet members, and we share that information back to them. And there's not a question that's off limits if they want to know how something works, why it didn't work, what was the reasoning behind it. It's then in that group that they get to see that decisions that we make are just not made arbitrarily. We have researched things, there are laws we have to abide by, policies we have to go by, which affect the decisions that we make. But it is, like you say, it's a model for the state. And I'm very proud to have that in Brunswick County.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Oates, I'm sure you're well aware that this year is a rewriting year for the AIG local plan. Your AIG coordinator for your district has probably already presented that to your board. But around the state, several districts are reconsidering their AIG model. Some are pulling the teachers and putting them back into the classroom, changing from like a pull out, push in model to a full-time in the classroom service model. And you've worked in so many different educational settings. I'm curious to know what you believe is the most effective service model for AIG.
Well, that's a tough one. But I think it can vary, but for what I've seen and what works for more children is to have the push-in model work a little better than the pull-out. I like for as many students as we possibly can to be exposed to the more critical thinking, the higher level lessons that AIG students receive, as opposed to the AIG students being pulled out and isolated by themselves. I will be frank and say those AIG students, they are going to be your high achievers regardless in many instances. But while we are focusing on those students who achieve at that high level, we want to kind of immerse those who are not yet at that level into some of those lessons, some of those critical thinking skills that they have. So I think that model works best for me, at least in what I've experienced.
I think that's the best model too. I think that the push in and pull out model does allow our AIG certified teachers to reach more kids. And it's not just the students who are identified, but also those who may need talent development and nurturing in some capacity. So good answer.
Dr. Oates, you are a student of history. I'm just curious, how do you think history is going to remember this particular time in North Carolina education?
Well, not just in North Carolina, but overall. Mm-hmm. I still believe that public education is the best ticket out there. Always have and always will. But you can't help but wonder if sometimes there's an attempt to intentionally dismantle public education from the outside, and I'll leave it at that. I think history will reflect the attempts that have been made to dismantle it, the attempts that are continually being made to dismantle it, to discredit teachers from being the professionals that they are. It's a tough time in every facet of education. But what I'm hoping is, as we go through these next few years, that the tide will turn. That is a hope and a prayer that the tide will turn and folks will see public education for the benefit that it is, that the benefit that it has been for years to come. So that's what I hope happens with the historical context of education.
Dr. Oates, you talked about your TAC program, and Marlo was talking about how it's a great model for the region and for the state. And so often in public education, we get a top-down model, either suburban schools drive what should happen in urban schools. Mm-hmm. Suburban schools drive what should happen in rural schools. What is something, and I say this, as a graduate of rural public education, what is something that you think schools down east, schools in your region, more rural schools are doing right that should be pushed up? What's something out of Brunswick that you think the Wake County, Mecklenburg, Durham, and Orange County schools could implement to better serve students? What's something that, rural regions are getting right that more suburban districts need to consider?
I will speak for, and I understand coming from a rural area. I came from Duplin County, so I do know. But I would say, as far as us here in rural Brunswick County, I think one of the things that we definitely get right is several things. We make sure that we're taking care of our children's social needs first. One of the things that I think about is that first comes to mind is our child nutrition department. Most of our rural areas, it's nothing for us to get on buses and take meals to places, to kids that need them. Being affected by Hurricane Florence showed that this is what we were able to do and do it right. Being out of school for that amount of time, and kids that get probably their only meal at school, first thing the director wanted to know is, how can we feed these kids? So we got buses and got them out to places, set up stations where they could come and eat. These are things that you may not be able to do as well in a large suburban or urban school district. So we do that well. Being able to have a close relationship with our EC population. We have a EC director who's been in place for some time and has gone through various grade levels with students, and all of our folks, the regional EC teachers that we have in place, we're able to really make contact with families and students. So it's just being able to have that closeness and being able to, because now you're looking at serving the students of kids you had before. So they know the background, and you don't get lost in the tens of thousands of students that you may have in a school system. And you're really able to kind of focus on making sure this family is taken care of.
So,
Dr. Oates, I think, I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead, Mike.
I think one of the things that make a school and area special is how the school and the community come together and just make it one big family. So I'm just curious, since the pandemic has hit, how has your county and your district's community come together to just support each other?
Well, in numerous ways, we have an excellent relationship with our county commissioners. We have an excellent relationship with emergency services, the health department. All of us are in the same complex. And because we are a united front, we are able to spread that type of relationship throughout the district. We have, one of the things that I think have worked well is when we first encountered the pandemic, being able to send messages out, video messages to the entire county and reassure and just inform, give the accurate information of what was going on. And the feedback that we received from that was extremely positive, because the community knew almost every step that we were making to combat the pandemic. So being able to communicate that and share videos and make videos with other partners in the complex, whether it was having our health director on with me, the sheriff, commissioners, whoever, being able to show that we were united and to share that message out has been, again, beneficial for all of us here in Brunswick.
That's really great for you all to be such a united front. Dr. Oates, we know that some individuals who will need some support in the coming weeks are some of our new superintendents, some of our excellent educators who are taking on the superintendency in the coming weeks. What advice do you have for some of our first year superintendents?
I would say to them, and I say to them when I meet them, the first thing I do is I give them my phone number. And I tell them, this is not just for me to just share this and hope that you don't call. This is for me to share this because you will need to call. That's just the way it works. I was embraced by so many superintendents in November of 2018. And to this day, they're my friends, they're my support circle. We pick up the phone and we call each other to throw an idea off, to troubleshoot some things before we go public with it. We have a question, we ask, how are you guys combating this? How are you doing that? Because if you think that this is a job that you can do by yourself, you are destined to fail at it. It takes not only your immediate cabinet, it will take outside superintendents who have done this for a long time. Those who haven't done it for that long of a time have just as much to offer veterans. And in this business, when you reach 4 years as a superintendent, you're a veteran. So that's kind of how that goes now. I can remember when I first came out of 115 superintendents, I was 115th. You look at 4 years later, I'm up in the 30s as far as the number of years I've been in, because so many people have left. And many new folks have come in. So it just takes all of that in order to to be successful.
Well, we appreciate that you are still here and still serving in such a successful way. And we congratulate you once again on being the Southeast Region Superintendent of the Year. So well deserved, Dr. Oates.
Thank you.
We would also like to thank our audience so very much for watching our program. We hope that you will engage us on our social media platforms. Please like our Facebook page. Please follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @TarHillTeachers. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Visit our website, tarhillteachers.com. And on all of our social media platforms, please use our hashtag TarHillTeachers so we can find all of your great comments. I'd like to thank our wonderful group of co-hosts for joining us for this conversation. Amy Tart, Mike Meehan, Kimberly Jones, and Arisha Smalls. And once again, we'd like to thank our special guest for joining us. He's served here in North Carolina for 25 years, and he is the superintendent of Brunswick County Schools, and he is also the Southeast Region Superintendent of the Year. Kudos to Jerry Oates. We look forward to seeing you next time on Tar Heel Teachers